Glad to see so many of you on this webinar today. Welcome to, it is the informational webinar on respite relief for military and veteran caregivers. Arch has been really honored to be a longtime collaborator with the Elizabeth Dole Foundation, so we're especially pleased to be able to bring you this information. I would like to ask all of you, while our presenter is speaking, to please keep yourselves muted. I'm sure most of you are familiar with Zoom and know where the little microphone mute button is along the bottom of your screen. We will be taking questions from the chat and monitoring that, so feel free to enter questions at any time into the chat. And then at the end, we may have an opportunity to open up the microphones if you'd like to ask a question as well. I'm going to turn it right over to our presenter, Jackie Henry. She serves as the Programs Manager of Direct Care Services for the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. And as I said, she's going to share information about this really wonderful initiative at the Dole Foundation. So thank you so much for being here today, Jackie, and I'm going to turn it right over to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jill. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to join all of you today and share more about the Elizabeth Dole Foundation and resources available to military and veteran caregivers. I joined the Elizabeth Dole Foundation in February, and the military community means a great deal to me. My mother is a Navy veteran. She spent 20 years in the Navy working as a pediatric nurse practitioner. So I'm incredibly grateful to be a part of the Elizabeth Dole Foundation and help support military caregivers and their loved ones. So I want to share a couple of objectives that I have for my presentation today. The first is to provide you with information on our Respite Relief Program. Secondly, to request your help in promoting our program within your networks. And lastly, learn more about who you serve. So I want to start off by giving you the history of the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. The seeds of the Elizabeth Dole Foundation were planted in 2011 when Senator Bob Dole spent 11 months at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center recovering from surgery. His wife, Senator Elizabeth Dole, met countless individuals caring for their family members wounded in war and was deeply moved by their challenges. Today, the foundation is the preeminent organization empowering, supporting, and honoring our nation's military caregivers who voluntarily care for America's wounded, ill, or injured veterans at home. EDF is committed to innovating solutions and driving policy change to best support our nation's 5.5 million military and veteran caregivers. I also want to take a moment to highlight this landmark study. Senator Elizabeth Dole commissioned the RAND Corporation to develop the first comprehensive evidence-based national study of military and veteran caregivers. This 2-year study examined the needs of these caregivers as well as gaps in service and recommendations for filling those gaps. The study revealed a societal crisis requiring a national response. The RAND study found that there are 5.5 million military and veteran caregivers serving across the nation. These spouses, family members, and other loved ones experience great physical, emotional, and family strain, and far too often face these challenges alone. Many caregivers are frequently the sole breadwinner for their families, and most are balancing responsibilities of managing a household, childcare, legal and financial challenges, and complex medical conditions of their care recipient. This results in higher rates of anxiety and depression and deteriorating health for caregivers themselves. And furthermore, caregivers are our first line of defense in protecting veterans from taking their own lives. They provide physical and emotional support in good times and in bad. And they're the first ones by their veterans' side when an emergency occurs. Military caregivers essentially perform healthcare tasks, so they need to interact with healthcare providers as part of an inclusive care team. If you haven't already read this study, I highly recommend reading it. The study includes a lot of data on civilian caregivers as well. I also wanted to briefly share input we've received over the years from caregivers. In all of the surveys we've received over the years, respite emerges as the top need for military and veteran caregivers. This data and input highlights how much stress families are dealing with and the need for respite so caregivers can take time for themselves and recharge. So now I want to tell you more about our Respite Relief Program. As part of our foundation's response to COVID-19, last year we launched our Respite Relief Program to provide free respite relief services via CareLinx to caregivers of active duty service members and veterans. And we have 3 goals for our Respite Relief Program. The first is to provide direct relief to military and veteran families after an unprecedented year of difficulty. Next, to introduce the military and veteran caregiver community to respite care and better understand their needs for respite. And lastly, to evaluate the impact of short-term respite relief on military and veteran families. So like I mentioned, our Respite Relief Program is available to caregivers of military and veteran service members. Our program is available to caregivers of pre and post 9/11. Our program is also open to caregivers who are employed, either working from home or from an office. It's a completely free offering. There's 0 cost to caregivers. And caregivers who are approved for the program receive 24 total hours of respite. These hours must be used in at least 4-hour sessions, but they can be longer. Caregivers can choose to have the CareLinx professional caregiver come for the entire day if they'd like. They really have a lot of flexibility in scheduling their respite hours. Some families have the CareLinx professional caregiver come every Saturday for a month, while others choose to have them come multiple times in a week. And we've heard from caregivers that they're really utilizing this respite time for a variety of things. Some are using the time to go to medical appointments, while others are using the time to visit friends or go to church. Military and veteran families have a lot of flexibility in how they apply these hours, and assistance can come in the form of helping with household tasks like housekeeping, meal preparation, and transportation, but it can also extend directly to veteran care through mobility support, bathing, and grooming. I do want to make note that CareLinx professional caregivers are unable to perform medical assistance or procedures. And due to COVID-19, caregivers are equipped with PPE and they do take the necessary precautions before coming into a family's home. However, we have heard some feedback that some families are just not comfortable with having someone come into their home because of the pandemic. So we've shared a lot of messaging that caregivers can run errands, they can go grocery shopping, and leave everything at the door if the family prefers. We also find that some military and veteran families are also cautious of having strangers come into their home. This isn't the typical profile of aging seniors. Often our community of caregivers care for veterans of all ages. Many veterans themselves don't necessarily trust a stranger coming in and helping with their care. So we really find that emphasizing housekeeping and meal preparation options are a really effective way to break the ice. For example, one of our Elizabeth Dole fellows had her CareLinx professional caregiver help her organize a closet in her home as part of a spring cleaning project.
Jackie, this is Cassandra Furman with Arch, and I just wanted, in case people aren't following the chat, there was a question, it was answered, but I just wanted to make sure everyone saw it. And that is, are you coordinating with the new revised family caregiver support program? So I just wanted to draw your attention to that. And I see it's answered in chat, but I'll give you the chance to answer so everyone can hear.
Oh yes, the PCAFC program.
The VA caregiver support
program. Oh
yeah.
yes. And the great thing about our program is that, it's really, both programs are open to families. So, if they're in the process of applying for that program, they can apply for our respite program in the meantime and utilize these hours before they're approved for that program.
Okay. And the other question is it a 24 hours per week? Again, that was answered in chat, but to bring it to everyone's attention.
Yeah, so it's the total gift is 24 hours. The only limitation is it has to be used in at least 4-hour increments, but you could have CareLinx come in for 8 hours a day up until you use that 24 total hours, but it's not 24 hours per week or per month. The total gift is 24 total hours.
I've got a few more questions, but I'm going to wait until, because I know you may answer them in your presentation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you for those great questions. So now I just want to share with you some of our initial findings from those who've gone through our Respite Relief Program, starting with age and gender. Among the group of awardees, 21.4% were those who were between the ages of 51 to 60. Over 1/3 of caregivers who applied for respite services were over the age of 60, with some close to 100 years old. Interestingly, many applicants were seeking our services to support veterans in end-of-life and palliative care situations. And of the nearly 600 program participants, 31 eventually canceled their requests because the veteran passed away during the application process. And this really underscores the acute need of veteran families during the veterans' final days of life, when available resources are stretched thin and families are in need of additional respite care. Of the 588 respite recipients, nearly 90% of caregivers were women and 92% of care recipients were men. The majority of caregivers are caring for their spouse at 68.4%, with 21.3% caring for a parent and 3.1% caring for a child. This is not uncommon with previous demographic analysis of the constituency, as women typically become the caregivers for their male spouses. So moving on to location. So in order to gauge caregiver receptivity to respite care, EDF began our Respite Relief Program as a pilot program in 3 states in August 2020. We targeted metropolitan areas in 3 states, Florida, Texas, and California, where there are large veteran populations and high rates of COVID-19 infections and death. After the first month of the program, EDF and CareLinx expanded the service to Seattle, Washington, Portland, Oregon, Philadelphia, PA, and Indianapolis, Illinois. These areas were chosen due to the need, both high veteran populations and COVID-19 rates, as well as for CareLinx's access to aides available to provide respite services. And we were excited to expand our program nationally in October of 2020. And here's really where we could use your help. We would really love it if you could help get the word out about referring military and veteran caregivers to our program. And after today's webinar, I'll be sharing with Jill information on our program that you can share with families. Lastly, I just want to share one of the impacts of COVID-19 that we saw. Though the pandemic has impacted virtually every aspect of life, COVID-19 has negatively impacted military and veteran families in unique ways. Among our applicants, 78% reported the decline of emotional and physical well-being of both the caregiver and the care recipient. Additionally, 64.9% expressed concern about being exposed to the virus. And this concern is warranted given the high rates of care recipients being immunocompromised from wounds of war and toxic exposure. When asked how the pandemic impacted their financial situation, 16.8% of caregivers reported experiencing a loss of a job, and 33.7% experienced loss of income. So now I'd like to share Laura Gary's story and her experience with the Respite Relief Program. Laura, one of our Dole Caregiver Fellows, is the wife and caregiver to her husband of 30 years, Tom. Tom served in the Air Force from 1989 to 1996 as a security policeman and served the state of Texas as an employee for the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. In 2016, Tom was diagnosed with ALS, a terminal degenerative disease that is service-connected. As his disease has progressed, he became weaker, and the weakness impacted his ability to walk, the use of his hands and arms, and his ability to speak and breathe. He is ventilator dependent and fully paralyzed. Laura manages all of Tom's activities of daily living, such as eating, bathing, and getting dressed. Laura also assists Tom with his non-invasive ventilation, cough assist, and a suction machine, all of which are necessary to ensure Tom's respiratory issues are under control. Laura shared the following regarding her experience with the Respite Relief Program. She said, through the Elizabeth Dole Foundation's Respite Relief Program, respite workers have come to my house to help organize medical supplies, prepare meals, and clean the kitchen. That's a huge job because Tom has a feeding tube and his food has to be chopped, blended, and liquefied. Those are all things that in addition to my normal caregiving duties, I have to take care of. You just tend to forget that it takes a tremendous amount of energy, but you're used to putting yourself last. The CareLinx professional was a caregiver to another ALS patient in our area whom I happen to know. My fear of letting another person, not just in the house, but around Tom was immediately gone. Thanks to this program, I was able to start my week off not having to face a sink full of dishes or any of the other worries that are put off because I'm a caregiver. So now I just want to share our information where people can access additional information on our Respite Relief Program. Our website is hiddenheroes.org/respite. Our application is quick. It only takes about 5 minutes to complete, and we only require one document as proof of service. Some examples of those would be a copy of the care recipient's military ID, a letter from the VA, or their DD-214. We can be reached at Respite Relief at elizabethdolefoundation.org if you have any questions. And lastly, I just want to share a few additional resources. In addition to the Respite Relief Program, we have a wealth of resources and opportunities for caregivers of active duty service members and veterans to engage with other caregivers. This includes our Hidden Heroes caregiver community, which is an online support group that offers a positive place for military caregivers of all eras to connect with one another. We also have a COVID-19 caregiver resource hub. This hub provides caregivers with information, resources, and assistance as they navigate the pandemic. This hub includes over 30 resources and it's updated weekly. We also have the Caregiver Community Connection Series, or C3, and that's an interactive web series that aims to empower, inspire, and engage America's military, veteran, and family caregivers. We really have so much more, so I definitely recommend checking out hiddenheroes.org. So now I just want to open it up to discussion. I just had some questions I'd love to hear from everyone. If you want to either chat or unmute, or if you prefer just to reach out to me directly after with any questions or feedback, my email is Jackie, Jackie, at elizabethdolefoundation.org. But I'd really just love to know more about whether you work with a lot of military and veteran families, if so, how you're currently engaging with them, and then, you know, what all of you see as the biggest challenges to families utilizing respite.
Please feel free to unmute yourselves and speak directly to Jackie. She's happy to chat for a few minutes. We do have some questions in the chat too, but we'll give you all an opportunity to respond to Jackie's questions first.
Hi,
Jackie, sorry. Jackie, this is Tiffany Robb. I'm here located in Boise, Idaho. And yes, we definitely work with a lot of military and veteran folks. Here, our biggest concern or issue is the military or veteran folks who are actually the caregivers for a non-military individual, and finding those supports and services. So I was wondering that I hope that helps answer one of your questions, but also maybe then you can help answer, does this program extend to military and veterans who are caring for a non-military or veteran person?
Tiffany, of course, thank you so much for that question and that feedback. Yes, so currently the program is just open to caregivers of active duty and veterans, but we are looking to open this program to veterans who are caring for their loved one who is a civilian. We know this is a huge area. We've had a lot of veterans reach out needing assistance and having limited resources as they are the caregiver. So we are looking to expand this in the future. We're working on that now, and it'll be ready soon.
Hi, Jackie. This is my name is Leanne Winchester. I'm from Massachusetts. I direct Massachusetts Lifespan Respite Program, And we have been working to engage the Massachusetts Veterans Affairs. And so it's, trying to bring them on board, I guess, is slow. And so do you have any resources I might be able to share with them on what you offer, and also the needs and the supports that you provide?
Definitely, yeah. I'll follow up with Jill with some additional information on our program, details on it, and information how families can get connected to the application. And we'd be happy if you could pass that along. That would be wonderful. Did that help answer your question? Sorry, I just want to make sure.
Yeah. So it was more of just bringing the VA on board and then working through them to reach the families rather than us trying to reach the families directly. I'd rather work through them if possible.
Yes. And we work really closely with the VA on this program as well. And we're doing a lot of outreach with their caregivers, with the caregiver support program, to help explain, what's available, how families can utilize the service. So I really do appreciate that feedback. And, we're continuing to engage with the VA on this program.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, and this is Rashi. I work with Jackie at the Elizabeth Dole Foundation and have been trying to triage some of the questions as they come in. One of the things I saw, it was from, I don't know the first name, but the last name I think is Danelle, was that the biggest challenge is really the recruitment of respite workers. And when families don't have family and friends they can rely on. I mean, I think, and the fear of exposure and strangers in the home, this is definitely very consistent with feedback that we hear from the military veteran community. I think, at the point that someone is actively caregiving, there's already an immunocompromised person in the home. And so I think that fear of having people in the house is one that is very top of mind. And so what we've been doing, and in a lot of our language, is sort of emphasizing, and I think Jackie mentioned this, that, you could hire you could have your respite providers, help out with grocery shopping or transportation, or we try to emphasize some of the things that might be outside of the home, which has been, really, really effective. The other piece I would just say is, one thing CareLinx has been able to do is, they are available nationwide. Obviously, they have networks in some regions that are stronger than others. One thing that is an option is that, if there's a family that perhaps there's not a CareLinx provider readily available in their network, but if they have like a family friend or a neighbor or someone in their community that's helping them out, CareLinx is able to set something up whereby that person is compensated for some of the services provided. It's something that we're still sort of trying to figure out. So if of families that, maybe they're located in a really rural place, but a neighbor or somebody down the street is available and wants to help, we do have avenues to be able to connect with that. So I just wanted to mention those two things.
Thanks, Rashi.
Jackie, there was also just a question. I'm just going through it now. I don't mind reading it aloud for you, about how long the application review takes and sort of what that process looks like.
Yeah, I'd be happy to answer that. So like I mentioned, the application itself should only take someone about 5 minutes to complete. And then we just need that one document showing proof of service. Once we receive that, I review applications throughout the week. So once I'm reviewing the application, if we can approve the person, we'll send it over to CareLinx. And then it takes approximately 10 business days for CareLinx to reach out to the family, but it's usually less than that, but that's like the longest it should take. And then once CareLinx reaches out to the family, I always let families know, if you have any specifics in mind, whether it's, I really want a male caregiver, or this is really the schedule that I'm hoping for. I really want someone to come Monday, Wednesday, and Friday of this week, and I really need help with X, Y, and Z. That's really helpful information to share when they connect with CareLinx, so that they can take that into account when they're looking at the available caregivers in the area. And like Rashi mentioned, depending on where the family lives, they may already have a large group of available caregivers. But if someone's in a more rural area, it just may take them a little bit more time to locate available caregivers to assist that family.
Jackie, this is Ray Kirk. I work with Jill and the rest of the folks at Arch as a research consultant. And first I wanted to comment on a comment that Rashi made, which is that the reluctance or the hesitancy of many caregivers to bring a respite service into the home predates by many, many years the COVID-19 pandemic and that whole situation, which has dramatically transformed how respite is conceptualized and what's being done in the name of respite over the past year. So that introduction of respite to the caregiving environment by a trusted friend or a neighbor can be a really good way to get the caregiver comfortable with the idea of respite, which itself is a little bit threatening or intimidating to many caregivers for a variety of reasons. So I think that's a really good way to introduce it. I was pleased to hear that that option might be available. But the question I wanted to ask you more directly was one of the things that is the research tells us is important to how respite is accepted, perceived, and valued is measured by how the caregiver utilizes their time that's made available under the respite program, so that if they're able to go to their own medical appointments or deal with legal issues or whatever, that's like a category of care or of utilization that focuses on self-care. Others might use it for rest and recreation, or just some downtime, and most research studies endeavor to be non-judgmental about that however you want to use your respite time is fine. It's your respite, so you use it the way you want. But I'm wondering if the foundation is actually tracking any measures or conducting interviews or monitoring anything in that environment about how the caregivers are using their time, and perhaps is that related to the amount of the blocks of hours that they take at any given time. So do you have an ongoing evaluation program for this model?
We do. Yes, we do. Thank you so much for all that you shared. I really, really appreciate that. We do. So we have the application that's submitted when someone is applying, they receive their hours, and then we have a post survey, and that's where a lot of that data that I shared a few slides ago came from, to get follow up on, how was your experience? Would you recommend our program to a friend? Do you have additional feedback? And so we're tracking that information both through that survey, and I'm also reaching out to caregivers who've utilize their hours to just hear more about their experience, kind of like I shared with Laura Gary, just hearing more about what they go through on a day-to-day basis and really what the respite hours meant to them, whether it was, like you said, going to appointments or visiting a friend. Recently, I approved an application where somebody wanted to take his dog out on a hike because his dog's getting older and he hasn't been able to do that because he takes care of his mom. He's the sole caregiver for her. So people really are utilizing the hours in a lot of different ways. And that's definitely something we're interested in looking at further and seeing, if there is a correlation to what they're using the hours for and how long they're taking the blocks of time.
Thank you for that. It'll be interesting to hear about that in the future.
I know we're almost at time. Are there any other questions? Anything else I can help answer today? Great. Well, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Simone Rouse. I'm here in Newport News, Virginia.
Hi.
And hi. And although I know that these are dealing with older adults caring for their spouses, moms, dads, and so on. On the flip side, I was wondering if you all have any resources for military families that have that caregive for adults with developmental or cognitive disabilities?
That's a great question. That's something I would need to look into further, but I could certainly get back to you on some resources that might be able to assist those families. And not all of our caregivers are older. Really, there's a wide range of the age of our caregivers and both the care recipients, both pre 9/11 and post 9/11. So we do have a lot of people applying who are children, taking care of their parents who were maybe pre 9/11, or younger spouses whose spouse was a post 9/11 service member or veteran. So a lot of different ages applying for this program, but I could certainly look into what resources we know of for those families, and I can reach back out to you if that's okay. Rashi, do you know of anything offhand?
Yeah, I was going to say, if you send us a note, we can definitely get you the right resources. I think probably the biggest challenge, which I'm sure you is familiar with this group, is, our caregiving community covers a wide span of different kinds of health conditions, everything from, ALS, which you heard about, to TBI, to PTSD. Obviously, mental health conditions and issues are huge areas for us. And so your question about sort of cognitive issues is a good one. We can connect you with some resources specifically for those families. There's a ton of different stuff. The VA provides a lot of nonprofits, Warrior Project and others have really great resources. So if you send us a note, we can make sure you have what you need.
Thank you.
Thanks. Well, thanks everyone for your time. I really greatly appreciate it. And thank you for all of the wonderful questions and feedback. It really means so much to us. Again, if you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to me directly. My email is jackie@elizabethdolefoundation.org, and our website is hiddenheroes.org/respite. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you very much, Jackie. I was muted for a while, but I wanted to personally thank you for taking the time today. We also have a fact sheet that we did in conjunction with the Dole Foundation a couple of years ago on 9 steps to respite for military and veteran caregivers. And in that, it talks about the exceptional family member program as well, which is available to active duty military who are caring for a child or a family member with a disability. So that relates back to the last question as well.
Thank you so much, Jill.
Thank you all so much, everyone. And as Jackie said, we're all available to continue to respond to your questions and your comments. So thank you very much. This is also being recorded, and we'll make the recording available to everyone following the webinar. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Rashi, also for being available to answer questions in a substantive way on the chat. Thank you both.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Have a great afternoon, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.